Recently, I've been playing Decaying Winter, and if you're like me, you know that there's a lot of information on the wiki page for this game that isn't what you're looking for. So today, I'm going to be testing a lot of things that I couldn't find answers for on the internet. The first thing I wanted to test is if traits could affect the swing speed of the Executioner sword. So here I'm crafting one. I have a skin on, so, you know, it'll look a bit different than what you're expecting, but it's still the same old Executioner sword. For those of you who don't know, what makes the Executioner sword so great is that it heals you 5 HP for every kill you get with it. Now, that by itself is phenomenal, but it also does 125 heavy swing damage. The downside is it's really slow. In this clip, you can see me use the Executioner blade, and it only does 84 damage. This is due to lack of food and water, as that reduces your attack by about 30%. Otherwise, it's still a pretty good sword. Now for this next demonstration, I'm going to be equipping the Manic trait that increases your heavy melee swing speed by 45%, and I'm also going to change classes to the Vagabond, as it has an increased melee swing speed. By the way, I feel the need to mention, this took me about an hour and a half to get a second Executioner's blade, and only about like 5 minutes the first time I did this. You can see here that it's still swinging relatively slow, but is this faster? Putting the two side by side, you can see that despite all of the traits and the class, it is not faster. Due to lack of stamina, however, you can see a slight increase and decrease in speed that it swung. Next, I'm going to go over a lot of things I learned about the Vagabond class using the blade Kira. For those who don't know, the more kills you get, the more dog tags you earn, which increases the speed that you swing the sword and the speed that you move. The cap of move speed is 10 tags. After 10 tags, you are the maximum speed possible. You can't get past that. And as for the cooldown of the blade, at about 4, you can basically always use it. The first thing I found out is you cannot detonate explosive barrels with it. Yeah. Something else I found out is, no, this clip is not speeded up, you're just really fast. It can actually attack through walls. So here you can see a hangar in the mountain. And after getting rid of this random guy, I can show you something really neat about it. So you can see the hangars right through that little window, and you can actually attack it through the wall. This works for all walls and all enemies. By the way, I did also try it out. Combat Stimulant and all other perks do not affect Kira. Another question I had involved the perk of Sovereign. Sovereign? I don't know how to pronounce that, but a unique part of this class is when you shove, or push, whatever, it actually does a knife attack as well as pushing the enemy back. So when this class uses the ability, it marks an enemy, and when he dies he turns into a shadow demon, but you already knew that. Shoving also has that same marked effect on people, so if they end up dying, they will also turn into shadow demon things. Now, the question I had involved the Reaper Scythe. What makes the Reaper Scythe so special is when you shove, it actually turns into a sort of dash attack that can hit multiple enemies and stun them at once. So, how does combining the two work? Note that this is me spamming it and the speed is really slow. So here's our random victim, and we're going to try pushing him. As you can see, we are the correct class, and using our push just goes straight through him and will not mark him. However, that doesn't mean this weapon isn't entirely bad for the class. During wave defense, you can use this dash to your ability, as if there's at least one of those shadow demons, you can keep him stunned, or at least do a little bit of damage to kill at least one person. And because it's multiple hits, and the knives will keep spreading and spreading, using this weapon you can soon have your own little army of shadow demons. It just takes a bit of pushing, and you have to keep in mind not to lose stamina, because shoving uses a lot of stamina, and if you run out, you can't shove. This next one might seem a bit obvious, but I had to just double check if Lazarus' ability can actually heal you. So, if used on an enemy, it'll stun them for a bit and make them walk really slow. But what's the effect on ourselves? By the way, you can climb this mountain using these two trees here and mantling. So we're going to jump up here, take some fall damage, and see if it can cure either the fall damage or the effect from it. you can see I have a broken leg and 89 out of 120 HP. However, using the ability does not heal me. I still have 89 out of 120 HP and just some buffs. But that doesn't mean this class is bad. We can go test out the effects of this class on that random shotgun guy you saw from earlier. Shotguns have been ending a lot of my runs recently, and you can see with no weapons at all, no even traits to affect punching, I managed to solo him. Another fun thing I learned is about the dynamite traps. As a matter of fact, it can hurt the scabs. This random guy with the baseball got one shot by me doing 37 damage, without being attacked previously, of course. The next part is about bows, because I have always wondered if the traits affect bows, or is it just guns, is it just melee? Well, you can see by crafting 2 stones together that you can get by meticulously mining rocks together into a stone scrap, and then combining that with another stone, you make a crafted knife. Now, this weapon I thought was obviously trash. It is tier 0, however, it actually is much better than just using your fist. You can see the damage output here is not the best, as you would expect, but at least you can parry and do a little bit of damage to help you out. Right here is another example that I brought up previously, a stick of dynamite and a random person chasing me. Here you get a much better and clearer shot that it actually did damage him though. And using that damage, I could one-shot him with a crafted knife. You know, pretty weak weapon. After murdering a few guys with it, I went down to this wood pile to hit it a few times, because with a crafted knife and a single wood scrap, you can actually make a crafted bow. This would be the easiest way for me to test out if traits affected bows. Here's me fighting off wave 1 with just a single crafted bow. The first thing I wanted to test is how big the crosshair is. While moving, it gets pretty big. The next part is if the reload trait affects if you can fire or reload faster. And then of course there is the recoil trait, which makes it so you have less recoil, obviously. Here you can see the bow actually does pretty good, and despite being crafted, it's not a terrible weapon. I'm just bad at the game. So now we're going to swap off to some traits. Using reliable, lone wolf, and professional, we should theoretically have less bloom, less recoil, and less reload speed, although I'm curious to find out if the reload speed actually affects how fast you put the arrow in the bow. Now that we have a bow, let's go test it out in the first wave. So obviously the bloom is definitely smaller. You can see our crosshair, even when moving, it's pretty small. On the other hand though, the reload speed, you know, the recoil, I'm not seeing much a change in that sense. So make sure you use the lone wolf if you're gonna play damned, because bows are pretty good for that class. With all of my questions answered, I hope I answered some of your guys. Make sure to leave a comment if you have anything that you need to test out that's not on the wiki page. You know, you can always check the wiki page. And, you know, I'll see you guys if I make a next video.